AskReddit by Sunshine 320,159. People who married someone that cheated while dating. How's your marriage now? Divorced. You can't avoid marrying someone you don't trust. So simple, yet such a hard lesson. Shame. So sorry you had to learn that very hard lesson. Divorced. Due to an affair. Everyone, including me, thought we had an amazing 13-year marriage and we were working on trying to have our second child. From the streets did she emerge, and to the streets she will return. And I say unto you, she is for the streets. So be not weary when she must return from whence she came. She continued to cheat, so we divorced. She continued to cheat on the next guy, so they divorced, and she still didn't learn. She's now alone and miserable in her 60s. And probably blames everyone else but her. I know a guy who dated this girl in college who cheated on him, and he still married her. Midway through their marriage she decided she wanted to try polyamory, so she said, and the first dude she dated was the guy she cheated with in college. The marriage is now in shambles. I mean this in no hate to the polyamory community, but I've noticed that if it's not talked about beforehand, if someone suddenly brings up adding another partner, they want to cheat more than likely. She later came out as gay and we divorced after 2.5 years. Ross? I divorced him. Could never get past that early breach of trust, and the resentment was dissolving my soul. Dissolving my soul, what a great description. He cheated one drunken night while away at college. He doesn't drink anymore. We went to therapy and we've been married for almost 30 years now. We have a happy life together. But I wouldn't say this is the norm. Most relationships don't work after cheating. I have a similar story. He cheated one drunken night, early into our long distance relationship. He was 21, with almost no experience prior to me. I found out years later and was devastated. I understood the why and forgave him, and he proposed a few months later. It ruined the fairy tale, but it also proved that if we could survive that and come together stronger and closer, we could survive anything. We both entered into marriage with eyes wide open. We've been happily married for 15 years, and it came up in conversation recently, where we discussed it without any resentment or hard feelings, and the psychology behind it. I agree it's not the norm for a relationship to work out after this, but in some cases, it does. It's going brilliantly. All four of us are pretty joyous now. Felices Lows 4. Got divorced and haven't seen him for over 30 years. He cheated the whole time we were married too. He blamed a dead bedroom for his cheating, but he got the cause and effect backwards. He cheated constantly and didn't like to use condoms, so I stopped having sex with him to preserve my own health. It didn't matter how often we had sex, we were having sex almost daily for a while and he'd still find time to cheat. My marriage is awesome. I fully trust in him again and he's the absolute love of my life. But just because it worked out for me doesn't mean it will for everyone. It took a lot of hard work on both of our parts to get our relationship to where it is now. I would never fault anyone for not wanting to put that work in. Also, cheaters often aren't properly remorseful, and if they're not, then reconciliation isn't possible. My husband was properly remorseful and was willing to lead the effort and work needed for our reconciliation. If that hadn't been the case, I would have had to leave. Thanks for sharing this. People don't tend to talk about overcoming infidelity, but tend to never stop talking about it when a relationship fails due to infidelity, so we end up with a skewed idea of how possible it is to move past it. My 18-year-old boyfriend cheated on me during our freshman year of college. We were 1,300 miles apart and had only been dating for 4 months when we each left for college. He confessed. I was brokenhearted. He felt awful. That was 27 years ago. We've been married for 21 years with 2 kids and 2 dogs, and we can't get enough of each other. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me and I trust him with my life. Sorry to ask, but how did you get over it and how long did it take? Well, I didn't find out about the cheating until after we were married and learned he was cheating while married. Got divorced, so not well. My ex never cheated until we were married. But the first time she did it, she led me to believe she wanted things to be better, so I gave her another chance. Turned out those words were hollow and unsubstantiated. I left her after she did it again. It's not quite once a cheater, always a cheater. But I think anyone who cheats and doesn't follow that up with some deep, self-initiated inner work to get to the core of their issues will always be a cheater. Not married but an LTR for + years. She cheated on me with her ex, whom had cheated on her previously. They got married and he cheated on her again. She tried to get back with me, after all those years, knowing full well I was perfectly happy in another LTR. So yeah, she wanted to be my cheating partner. The mind of thieves, thinking everyone else steals. Dated for a while after the cheating, then it petered out. Moved on. Both of us had serious relationships with other people. And X200B. Then we both found ourselves single at the same time. Started hanging out again, truly trying to be platonic. Even tried to set each other up with other people, but the connection was there. Eventually gave in to the feelings and have been happily together for almost 15 years. Married for 13 of those, with 2 kids and complete trust. Not me but a relative of mine. A pattern developed where every 2 years her husband cheats, isn't remorseful about it, makes her feel bad about leaving him, and then eventually they get back together, and the cycle repeats itself. Why every 2 years? Does he have some kind of innate mating cycle? Cheating that ends up never happening again and a couple reconciling is very much the exception to the rule. I would say 10% or less. If you're asking this because you've been cheated on, I would GTFO. Right. I'd say less than 10% for sure. But sometimes it does happen and relationships can be better. But I think you need a very solid and long relationship to start with. Anything under 3-5 years I'd simply cut loose. I was the one that cheated, back in college. We got back together, and I've been faithful ever since. That was about 19 years ago. Sure happy she took me back. Our life is as good as we could hope for. Why did you do it? What changed your mind after the fact? How did you go through the transformative process of committing yourself fully to your partner? When did the trust finally feel like it was fully repaired? OP, if you're asking this to see if you should stay with a cheater, don't. Just leave. A lifetime of stress and insecurity isn't worth whatever you delude yourself into thinking they can provide you that a good loyal person can't. This is exactly why thank you. It is honestly really hard. Sometimes I can't help but think men are wired to cheat. I almost am happy to have gotten it out of the way. And that he confessed. And that he wants to reconcile. But on the other hand, I'm 21 and have the rest of my life ahead of me. But what's the point of leaving if I'll just find another man that will cheat on me? Sorry for the dump, I'm just processing. She was coming out of a very abusive LTR. Turned out she was still sleeping with him for the first couple months of us dating. She eventually told me, said we never had the convo, which was true, but I still decided to cut ties and date other people. About 6 months later, I was in something super casual and she called and asked to have coffee. Been 12 years now. I trust her implicitly. Does she knows now that you guys are exclusive? I hope you had the convo now. Not me but my friend who is 62 cheated on his wife early in their marriage. They're now at I think 28 years together. He was also a huge alcoholic at the time and after he cheated on her turned his life around. Divorced. He's remarried. She's single and travels a lot to spend time with men she meets online. My sister-in-law did. Every time she caught him she blamed the other women. Now she hates his guts but she won't divorce him. Love is fleeting, but spite lasts forever. Sorry, not funny but 'twas the first thing I thought when I read your comment. She cheated again and we got divorced. My then girlfriend cheated on me once in college when we were dating long distance. Been married for 13 years now and from the outside things are going well. She is a devoted wife and mother, we both have good jobs and are generally happy. However, our libidos are not matched, which is something that I have struggled with since before we got married. The general lack of desire from her and knowing she chose someone else over me still haunts me at times even though it happened years ago. There have been a few times where she admitted she is not physically attracted to me. If I could go back I would choose a different path. I don't know why but it didn't bother me as much when I was younger, but now it really keeps me from being a truly happy person.